And so you're going to go through this on your own. You can use my little video. I'm not going to go through all the entire slides, but I just kind of want to explain what you're looking at here. So our notes for this, our third notes for this unit are about development. You're going to start by thinking a little bit about what development is. You're going to add that to your notes. So here's your definition of development: a process of improvement in the material conditions of people through the diffusion of knowledge and technology. So when we think about level of development of a country, we are going to talk about measures of development in terms of more developed countries, or MDCs. And you're going to want to remember that acronym because that's going to come up in some of the assignments that you do. But you're also going to want to know it because you can use it and you then don't have to write out more developed country, or it's a shortened version of it. So we talk about countries that are more developed. These are countries where conditions are better for the people. There's more knowledge and technology. There's more, like more advanced types of processes happening. Less developed countries, or LDCs, are on the other side of that spectrum. And so it is a spectrum. There's a lot of middle income countries or countries in the middle as well. So you are going to be going through different levels or measures of development. And for each slide, it's going to start with talking about whether or not it's a social indicator of development, an economic indicator of development, or what type of development measure it is. So there's a lot of different ways that we measure development. So the first way are the social indicators. And so you're going to go through different social indicators. The first one is going to be life expectancy. And in your notes, you should write number 1 so that you have a list of them. So life expectancy is the average number of years a person is expected to live. For each of these, then, you are going to fill in this sentence about whatever the indicator is. So more developed countries have blank life expectancies. LDCs, or less developed countries, have blank life expectancies. So based on what you're seeing here, okay, life expectancy, you can see differences in life expectancy throughout the world. And just thinking a little bit about, is life expectancy a good thing or a bad thing? Having a higher one, you're going to fill in the sentence and say, more developed countries have longer life expectancies. Less developed countries have shorter life expectancies. It's a general rule of thumb. There are definitely exceptions, but this is kind of what you're looking at. So you're going to do it again here. You're going to look at literacy rate, same kind of thing. So read about what literacy rate is, take a look at the map, and then fill in the blanks. Total fertility rate, so average number of children a woman will have in their lifetime. Okay, so that's TFRs, is total fertility rate. This goes back to our population unit. Remember that generally higher TFRs are going to indicate lower levels of development, so that might be helpful. And then infant mortality rate, so number of children that die. And then we're going to move on to economic indicators of development. So how do we measure the economic level of a country? And by the way, there's a lot of overlap between these. So the first one's gross domestic product, which is the total value of all goods, services, and investments produced in a country. So it's basically the country's output. So think about a country's output. Take a look at this map. Countries' outputs are going to be based on the amount that they're producing, but also it's going to be based on the population. So countries like China, for example, have really, really big GDPs. China's not a LDC, but it's not really an MDC either. It's kind of in the middle. But just due to the fact that they have a really huge population, they're definitely going to have a higher gross domestic product. But what is going to be different is that the GDP per capita. Per capita is going to be this term that means per person. So when we take the entire wealth of the country and divide it by the people, the amount of people we have, we're going to get a different statistic or a different number. And then this is also going into the differences between them. So looking at differences, so you can see here that both China and the United States have really high GDPs. When we compare their GDP per capita, countries of Europe are really going to become dark here. China is going to become much larger because we have to divide their GDP by the 1.4 billion people that they have. So those are all different indicators of development. The Human Development Index is going to measure both social and economic indicators, and it gives countries a score from 0 to 1, ranging from very high human development to very low human development. And so this is a pretty recent map of where countries fall. So taking into account different measures, you can also click here and look at a link to the list of countries. And then we're going to get into different types of ways of thinking about a country's development. So as a country develops, what does that mean? Or what kind of path do countries take as they develop? So there's two kind of major theories. The first one is the development theory. And this is the idea that countries are kind of taking steps forward. So countries are progressing through stages of development at different paces, but they're all moving forward, that they're moving from a traditional society to taking off, to maturing, and to this age of like high technology and mass consumption. Another way to think about it, though, is dependency theory. And this is really focusing on how countries are stuck in their level of development with very little movement. Rich countries are staying rich by taking advantage of poorer countries. And that is what you're seeing here. And it divides countries into 3 different levels: core, periphery, and semi-periphery. And that's where we're going to end there. So go back to the notes, make sure that you have everything in your notes, make sure you're filling in the blanks there, and have a great day.